Every pain test I have failed. I've written a book on it.
You can't plan for pain, but you can prepare for it.
Pain will either make you bitter or better.
You're in the middle of what feels like hell on earth.
Everybody's going to church and they are rejoicing, they're lifting their hands, they're worshiping, they're singing, they're crying, and you're sitting next to them as a statue. You're standing there feeling nothing, ice cold.
Hey everybody, I am so excited for today's podcast because I get to introduce you to a friend of mine, Sam Chand, and you're going to love him. You're going to love this conversation. It's really for anyone who's ever experienced pain or will experience pain. So that means it's for you. It's for everybody. And I'm telling you, it's going to be so helpful. It's going to be incredibly inspiring, and it's just going to be practical. And so I can't wait to dig into some of the things we're going to dig into. So enjoy this conversation with Sam Chand. Sam, I'm so glad to have you here and to get some time. I love getting to introduce our listeners to people who've had an influence on me, people who've kind of been a mentor from afar. And you didn't know this, but you've been a mentor of mine from far away for a while. And just really glad to have you here on the podcast. So thank you for making time.
I'm honored to be here. And mentor is a big category.
Well, you better live up to it.
I don't know. But we'll find out by the time people come to the end of this podcast.
So we were actually talking just a moment ago, and you've written, how many books have you written?
My number 38 comes out next month.
It's absolutely amazing. We'll give everybody kind of information about your latest book, your newest book coming out here in a little bit. But so that's how I was introduced to you. Actually, was one of those 38 books, and since then I've read more of your stuff since reading that first one. But I was actually with a group of leaders and pastors in California last year, and last November actually, and we were talking one day about books that everybody was kind of sharing what they've been learning and books that have had influence on them. And one of the books that kept coming up again and again and again was Leadership Pain by Sam Chand. Leadership Pain by Sam Chand. And so I had to check this out. And so actually that day went on Amazon, ordered your book, and finished it really quickly because it just gave voice to some of the things that probably I felt. It gave voice to some things that I wanted to aspire to in my life. And it was really all about resilience. And we'll talk about resilience here in a second. But you talk about pain a ton in it. And I want you to kind of just unpack, first of all, what was the burden of that book, Leadership Pain? Why'd you write it? And what were you feeling and sensing, and what were you hoping for people? And maybe just what's the big idea that you're really hoping to get at?
Thank you for allowing me to speak about it. It really started with a lot of personal pain. Pain in my marriage, pain in our family. We can talk about it later on. Again, my daughter at 18 got pregnant. Pain of my grandson dying in childbirth, pain in dreams I had for my life that were unfulfilled, pain of relationships, pain of things that used to work don't work anymore. Just a lot of variety of pain. And I must tell you that I wish I could tell you that I handled them all really well, learned my lessons, and moved on. That's not been the story. Some of them are still lingering. We're still working through the pain. But what motivated me to write the book was because of the work that I do. I work with organizations and leaderships in organizations, and I noticed that many of them grow, some don't grow, or have greater fulfillment or meets their benchmarks. The question became, why do some do and some don't? And so I started off by eliminating things like, is it location? No. Is it administration? No. Is it staff? No. Is it money? No. Is it communication? No. So
I say, what's the distinguishing mark between organizations that are healthier and growing maybe and ones that aren't?
That's right. And it came down to leadership. It came down in families to the people leading the family, for example, because many of the people who are leading, who are watching us right now and listening to us, are not necessarily CEOs of companies or
Hmm.
lead pastors. They are just like me, just an everyday Joe kind of thing, or everyday Jane.
Hmm.
And so I concluded that the greatest differential was how much pain a person was willing to grow by.
Mm.
So all my books are written around one sentence, and the sentence for this book was, "You will grow only to the threshold of your pain."
Okay. You will grow. See, this is the statement that just kind of stood out to me.
Mm.
You will grow only to the threshold of your pain. So unpack that a little bit.
Yeah,
Why
so
is that?
I would grow in my marriage as a better husband,
Mm.
uh, the threshold of working through my pain.
Mm.
And she had her pains too, but I had my pains. I mean, we had pain with each other. As a father, I will grow only the threshold of my pain as to how I handle my children. I have two daughters uh, who have turned out to be amazing. Because of the mother, I could have been a much better father. As a leader, at one time as a university president, as to how I could have done better with my pain points. So my how I handled my pain, my disappointments, my confusion, my setbacks in life, and then there are all kind of platitudes and cliche. Your stumbling block will become your stepping stone, and
Mm.
all that is cool. I get that, and I agree with that. But when you go into the mess of life, when things are not going well with you financially, when things are not going well with your dreams, when you have more stuff going wrong than going right, when friends might be leaving you, when relationships get crazy, uh, it's in those moments that I think real growth occurs. I did not know that.
Well, growth can occur. Maybe that's
Yes.
a nuance,
Yeah. It can. It's
D-
possibility. But
but it's not a definite.
no, it's not a definite. It just depends on if you just fix the pain and do a band-aid on it
Yes.
and just take a lot of narcotics
Yeah.
and medicate your pain.
Uh-huh.
The first chapter of the book talks about leadership leprosy. I grew up in India. You can tell that by my accent now.
I thought it was Alabama
Yeah,
accent. Okay.
I know. Pretty
It's
close
India.
there.
Okay, I
Yeah,
got you.
but leprosy is a disease of extremities. You start losing your fingertips,
Yeah.
your nose tips, your ear tips, and you start. And the way you lose them is you don't feel
Mm.
anything. A lot of diabetics
Mm.
lose feeling, and I have friends who lost toes and feet because of diabetes. So all that to say is we end up numbing our pain, and I want to tell you, pain is a friend. Uh, if
Mm.
if you put your hand on a hot stove
Mm.
and you couldn't feel the pain, you'd be in trouble. But because of pain, you jerk back. Something hits your eye, you immediately reflect. Somebody pokes you, you pull back from that. So pain is a friend if it is leveraged and viewed like that.
This is why I want to have this conversation with you, because I just feel such a burden for people that we help them, for our listeners, for my friends, for my family in my life, that we help each other know how to be people who can face pain well, because it's coming. In fact, I think you and I were talking about this in another setting probably an hour or two ago, just about the inevitabilities of life. There are certain things that are just inevitable with life, and we should prepare ourselves to face those things. And one of the inevitabilities of life is pain. Like, none of us are going to escape it. I actually love what Jesus said. I think it was in John 16:33 when he says, in this world, you will face trouble. This is a no-brainer on this one. Jesus promised we're going to face trouble. And I think part of what you're getting at is growth doesn't happen by default. It happens by design. So we're all going to face pain. That doesn't mean we're all going to grow from it. What do you feel like are the markers, or what are the things we need to do in order to grow from our pain, not just face it? Because it's one thing to face it. It's another thing to internalize, I guess, and to begin to, I'm going to grow through this. What does that look like for a person?
I can tell you what it was for me. It was for me was when I was willing to not be defensive
Mm.
about the stuff I was going through. Uh, not be defensive about what kind of husband I was or am. Brenda, I've
Mm.
been married now for close to 46 years. And it's, you know, that sentence, you always, and you never.
Yeah. Yeah.
Neither one of them is true, but it is
Yes.
spoken
Yeah.
quite often.
Yep.
Not being defensive about the messes of life.
Mm.
Uh, owning my culpability, owning my enablement,
Yeah. Because some pain we bring on ourselves.
a lot of it.
A lot of pain we bring on
Yeah, a
ourselves.
lot of it. So, but we don't want to admit to that.
Yeah.
So pain, you know, the old cliche is right when it says pain will either make you bitter
Mm.
or better.
Mm-hmm.
And bitterness comes from not assuming responsibility for it. Because the only way I can grow is if I take responsibility for myself. But self growth is the hardest growth there is. But that comes from self awareness. Unless you're self aware that there's this painful stuff going on in your life. Early on in our marriage, I was aware, but it was all her. You
Right.
know, uh, everything that was going wrong was if she would just.
Yeah.
I'm doing all I can do. I can't work any harder. You know, I'm just going, and you're home, and
Mm.
it's transcending all of that. And I think that comes from life maturity. Uh, it also comes to a place where you hit a wall and it knocks the wind out of you.
Mm.
You just have to look up and say, okay. There's no right or left turn to it. It's an inflection point in your life. So pain is uh, the price for promotion is pain. Promotion meaning whatever upward mobility is happening, a
Mm.
better father, a better husband, a
Mm.
better business person, a better pastor, whatever that promotion
Mm.
means. But the price for promotion is pain. Everybody, here's the thing, every Bible character you read is a pain story.
Yeah.
You can pick it up from the Garden of Eden. And we preach that, but it's hard to practice that, right?
Mm.
I mean, we preach those stories of the lepers and the woman at the well and the woman who touched the hem of his garment. We preach about Daniel and we preach about Joseph and we preach
Moses
about
with
David
the stutter
and Moses.
and the
Yeah.
yeah.
And so we preach about all their pain and how that's the Bible.
Yeah.
And we look at their pain, but when they were going through it, it was very difficult for them to see it.
Yeah.
And we see how God never really delivers us from our pain. He grows us through our pain because that is his purpose in our life. His purpose is to grow us.
Yeah.
And I think the methodology that he uses kind of messed up. The methodology that he uses is brings pain into our life or allows us to go through painful times.
You just reminded me of, I just read a story recently. I think it was back in the late 80s. They did this experiment. They called it the Biodome 2, I think. And they essentially created, I think this might have been in the desert, where they created a plastic bubble, a dome, and wanted to see could they create fully sustainable, life-giving ecosystem in the middle of the desert in this biodome. So they plant trees, they bring in water. People were living in there, actually. I think it was like a years-long experiment. And what they found is these trees grew up, right, that were growing in there, but they all started falling over. And they began to ask why, before reaching full maturity, why are all these trees, everything else is going great in the biodome, but all these trees are falling over before reaching full maturity. And what they realized was because there's no wind in the biodome.
Mm.
It was the wind.
No resistance.
There was no resistance.
Mm.
And I feel like that's so much of what you're getting at is that deep roots only come on the other side of resistance, pain. We're using the word pain, but resistance in life.
And that's true if you go to the gym.
Yes.
It's all about resistance, right?
Yeah.
So in a couple of months, I'll be 72. A few years ago, I had a heart attack.
Mm.
So I have 4 stents right now. But every day I get on that rower. I got a rower downstairs, a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful thing, and I get on it. And what is a rowing machine? It's all about resistance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the more I do, the greater the resistance, and everything inside me says, "Why do you want to go through that?" But it's resistance that makes my heart
Stronger.
stronger,
Yeah.
gives the ticker a little bit more life,
Yeah.
and the blood flow and the heart rate, and so on and so forth. But there's nothing within us that finds resistance. What's the word? Attractive.
Yeah.
None of us are looking for pain, and yet that's God's methodology. Is a classroom for
Well,
growth.
so we aren't looking for it. I agree. And yet this is what's so counterintuitive about the gospel. I feel of Jesus and even the New Testament writings. And I think about that one in James. I think it's in James chapter 1 where it says, "Consider it joy when you endure trials of any kind." Actually, consider it pure joy. So it's not even joy. It's like straight, 100 proof, whatever. Joy when you face and endure trials of any kind. What do you make of that? And that seems like an incredibly high bar that the New Testament is setting there. That feels very counterintuitive. There's all sorts of reasons I could, but the statement there that James is saying. But what do you feel like is behind that statement? To consider it joy when we face trials of any kind. And for some people, that's real. They lost a child. They lost some. We talked about pain we bring on ourselves. Some pain we didn't ask for it, but it came our way. And so, how do you make sense of that?
Every time I've had the test of pain, I have failed it. I wish I could sit here and tell you, Jason, that I've considered joy, pure joy,
Yeah.
full joy. Not me. I have failed it 100% of the time. The only way I know to describe that is looking back on it.
Hmm.
So I've been fired twice in my life. Once from a daycare, once from a Goodwill store. Both of them are my fault. I must say that. But looking back on it, it put me in another ball field.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody appreciates it in the moment.
Yeah, you kind of have to be sick, I guess,
Yeah,
in a sense.
yeah.
I love this pain.
No.
Even Jesus in the garden was begging for it not to happen.
Absolutely. So, and yet, what is it, Hebrews that tells us they endured the cross for the joys that were set before him? Yes. I get that, but I can tell you, humanly speaking, every pain test I have failed. I've written a book on it, but I have never succeeded initially.
Yeah.
But when I give myself some time to churn with it, some time to just let it sink into me, some time to just say, okay, there's nothing I can do about this right now. So what did you mean by that? Well, when my grandson died in childbirth, so his middle name was going to be named after me. So his first name was Jude. My middle name is Rockwell.
Okay.
And the last name was going to be Marler, mother's married name. We were all excited. There were wallpaper in the room saying Jude. The top song on our playlist was Hey Jude,
yeah.
the great hymn of the church, written by the Beatles,
Yeah.
How inspired was that? So that was our thing. We had Jude T-shirts. We had Jude paraphernalia. It was there. We're sitting there in the waiting room, expecting, because the ultrasounds were perfect. Everything was great. And then the doctor comes out and says to the family, can I talk to you all in the conference room? I remember Brenda and I holding hands at that time, and she digging her nails into my hand. We knew that they never call you in until something's wrong. We got into the conference room, and the doctor says to us, we have saved the daughter's life, Rachel's life, but we were not able to save his life. It was a moment that none of us saw coming. And there was no way to find joy in it, let alone pure joy. It was sadistic God. Did I do something you're punishing my daughter for? Where did we mess up? What went wrong? So, fast forward, months went by. We're sitting at our kitchen table, the whole family. And the conversation now is, so Jude is done. He's dead. It's the hardest funeral I spoke
I
at.
can't imagine.
It was just one of those things. And we came to a conclusion he never breathed on this planet, but his life must count for something. So, we could do this, we could do that. And then we came up with the thought, why don't we start a Jude Rockwell school in my hometown in India? So that's been going for about 11 years now. There are about 300 kids in it. It's K through 6. It's great education, but it's Jude Rockwell Academy. So now I look back, hundreds of students have gone through there. I see the joy now vicariously in their face.
Sam,
But not at that moment.
Yeah, I actually love that you're saying this because I think sometimes we read a passage like James and we go, it must be now. I've got to, and you're in the middle of what feels like hell on earth.
Totally.
And then you start feeling guilty that you even feel this way because I'm supposed to consider it joy. You used a word a moment ago I want to come back to because I love this word. It's something you and I were talking about earlier. You used the word churn. You said I was in a churn. And what you and I were discussing earlier is when we're in the middle of pain, we want the change. We want out of it. And sometimes when we're walking with people who are in pain, we want to change it for them. And we don't give the space for the churn to happen. Can you just talk about that process of allowing the churn to take place and almost not skipping through it, I guess?
I think there's something within us that wants to fast forward life. So even our well-meaning friends would say something like, God has a plan.
Which is true.
Well,
like
yeah.
these are all true
That's
things. Right. And that's what's, but keep going.
Yeah, that's just how it is. So it's like, really? So God knew all along while she was going for ultrasounds when doctors saying everything's okay, when the whole family is there. So God's plan was to take us and then yank and open the trap door and we fall with an endless falling. It's that dream, actually dream that we have, those frustrating dreams in which you're running, but you can't get there. The buses, it's yelling, you're falling, but there's no end to the falling. So everybody wants you to get beyond it on the other side. We say things like, something must be wrong with her. She's still mourning her husband. Like, there's got to be some moratorium on this pain thing. After 18 months, you should be done with this. And there's something uneasy in us around people who are carrying pain.
So true.
And it is just, there's an unease. We don't like being around them.
In their churn.
When they're
churning.
And they're working it out. That's what churn means. Churn means I don't know that, and I don't know what I don't know, and I can't even script how this should work itself out. And yet, you said something earlier. I want to say again. We start feeling guilty about feeling guilty, and we start feeling guilty about not trusting God, and how. Don't you know Job? He lost everything and he said, but I will still worship him. But The Bible is like black ink on white paper, and heaven is like brass. And my prayers are not going anywhere. I go to church, I go through the motions, but I have no joy. I see everybody else feeling that. You wrote about that in your book. By the way, a great book. You will not plug it, but I just read it yesterday. It's called No Easy Jesus. So if you're listening to me, yeah, go on Amazon. It's still there.
Yeah.
Came out in 2017, published by Tyndale, a great publishing house. No Easy Jesus, in which you talk about a friend who stopped serving the Lord. And you asked him, why do you not go to church? And he tells you about he can't smell. So everybody talks about the pie being baked, and he cannot smell that anymore. And everybody's going to church, and they are rejoicing. They're lifting their hands. They're worshiping. They're singing. They're crying. They're going through all the stuff. And you're sitting next to them as a statue. You're standing there, feeling nothing, ice cold. And that's what happens when you're churning. And churning is not high heat all of a sudden. Churning is just a little bit of warmth, a little something funny that you smiled at.
Just a glimmer
Just
of
a
life.
little, yeah. That little sarcastic thing came out again.
Yeah.
That you cut somebody in a good way.
Yeah.
You watched that movie, and yeah, you felt it. Your feelings start coming back slowly. But to say that you should be over that by now is such a disservice to the churn, because we want them to change, and we are uncomfortable with their churning.
It's really about us.
It really is.
I mean,
It's a very
at the end of
selfish thing.
Yeah.
So churn is about saying, I don't know, I don't understand, don't have a clue, don't have a plan.
Yeah.
But let me just kind of live in the moment.
I would imagine, Sam, that's incredibly encouraging for somebody listening right now who's in the churn and has felt guilty, like they should be past the churn and into the change now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of what you're doing is giving permission to say, it's okay to live in the churn. These things are not linear. They're not black and white. They don't happen A, B, C, D, E. You were talking about for some, I mean, you described immense pain of loss that you personally experienced. And these things don't just change overnight. It's okay to be in the churn. But let me talk about from the person walking beside, because we got a lot of people who are walking with others in their life. They're in churn right now, and we're concerned too. Mm-hmm. So I think some of it is very selfish, and it's like, we're past this and you should be. And sometimes we're trying to get them to move past it because we're scared. So, how do you help someone when they're in churn? When they're going through pain, and we want them to grow from it. We want them to, and we don't want to fast track it to just change, get past it, but we also don't want them to stay there. How do you walk with somebody? What are some of the principles you would be, or maybe some of the ideas you'd be having in mind, walking with someone through pain?
Almost all pain is about loss. Loss of a job, loss of a spouse, loss of a marriage,
a dream,
a loss of a dream, loss financially, loss of a friend who went rogue on you, whatever that might be. Almost all pain is about some kind of loss. And I can tell you, for Sam, the greatest help has been mere presence of somebody else. My friend Cecil Murphy, maybe 30 years ago, wrote a book called When in Doubt, Hug 'Em. The power of presence. Not words, not even deeds, even though they are both very important, just being there. So when someone's going through loss, do you have the bandwidth just to sit in the room for 2 hours and not say anything? Power of presence. And that being present with somebody is the warmest hug you can give them. Because when in the deepest of losses and the deepest of pain, there aren't really no words, right? I mean, our
What
vocabulary.
am I going to tell you when you lose your Like,
Yeah.
what am I really, truly going to tell you when you lose your grandson?
That's right.
That's going to help.
And when someone says, I can only imagine, no, you can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, your imagination is going to fail you. I think I know what you're going through. No, you're not. Because everyone's pain is different. So how are you present? Just there. Think about it this way. You got 2 kids. I've raised 2 young ladies now. So you're at home. It is dark. It's night. And there's thunder and lightning and claps of thunder. And you hear the pitter-patter down the hall. And the kids jump into bed with you. They are shaking, but you're shaking too. But they are shaking, right? So they are shaking. And we as parents say to them, don't worry, I'm here. Well, hope to do. Like
that lightning's out there.
Yeah, I'm here. And your kids, because of your presence, curl up and go back to sleep while you're still shaking.
Yeah.
But they curl up and go to sleep. What happened there? It was not your words. It was your presence. And I think once we start exercising the power of presence, you become a safe place. Not an easy believism, not in band-aids, not in platitudes, but just being there.
And I think that's such a beautiful vision for what the church should be and can be for each other. Because that is compelling and attractive, what you just described, to be a part of a community like that.
And I want to tell you, on a personal level, it's hard to find those people. Because we all want to fix it for somebody. Well, no. We really want to fix it for somebody so I can feel more comfortable.
I can move on.
Yeah, I can move on.
Yeah.
But just being there. We had friends in our life who were just there. They said very little, but they were just there. And I think that is something we all can practice, is the power of presence. And the more present you are, the more powerful you are. Because the verbal people will move on. Because you want them to, the verbal people want you to respond to their verbalization and the 3 points that they've given you that you should do.
Yeah.
But just to sit with somebody, that's a different thing.
You said something that, you say a lot of things that I just write it down. I'm like, okay, I need to think about that one for a while. But you said something to me where you said, you can't plan for pain, but you can prepare for it. Talk about the difference. So now let's just think about for each of us, pain's coming. We already said it. It's an inevitability, big, small. I mean, it's going to come, right? Loss in some form. How do we prepare? What does that mean? That you can't plan for it, but you can prepare for it. How do we prepare for what may be down the road for us so that we live resilient through it, right?
So my wife and I, Brenda and I, have been to many, many funerals. When I was pastoring,
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah, part of
Part
it.
of the gig.
And just this year alone, I have officiated funeral for 4 of my close friends. And they said, we want Sam to do our funeral. So there I am. And when Brenda and I are walking over from the gravesite, 9 times out of 10, we say to each other, one of these days, either you will walk away or I'll walk away. We're going to plan for it. Well, I got my funeral planned. She doesn't.
But you would tell me earlier,
Yeah.
you literally have it planned. You've
It's
got
all
like,
written.
here's the order. Here's who I do not want speaking, which I love. Because we all know that one person who's going to get up and say a bunch of weird stuff.
For example, I'm not, no church music at my funerals. Okay.
You've heard enough of it.
Yeah. I want some sweet jazz.
Okay.
I'll get enough of church music up there on a loop. I don't want a celebration. I do not want a celebration of life. I want people to cry. It's a very.
We're going to mandate that.
It's a very expensive party. I'm paying for it. I'm not even there, right?
Yeah.
I don't want you to lay me like this, I'm going to go out like this. I've loved life. I've never taken myself seriously.
Yeah.
So as I've traveled all over the world, I've said what I just said on my Orcon platform. So my funeral is written out. So I said to Brenda, Brenda says to me, either you're going to walk away or I'm going to walk away. So how do we prepare for that? Now, in pragmatic terms, Brenda says, I'm going to sell this house. I'm going to downsize. This is too big for me. I'm going to get me a smaller condo kind of thing. On the pragmatic side, I said, no, if you go before me, I want to just live here. I know where the steps are. I can do this myself. But on the preparation side of things, we have to know, have a fresh grasp on eternity.
Yeah, I was going to say, Sam, I mean, you were even saying, I loved your metaphor you used, that when you look in someone's luggage, you can always tell where they're going to go.
That's right.
Where they're preparing to go.
Yeah.
And so maybe talk about that. Like what do we need in our luggage? Maybe just unpack that metaphor.
Yeah. So if I was to run into you in an airport and you got your rollerboard, your carry-on, and you happen to unzip it, and I see flip-flops and shorts and sandals and tank tops, I don't know exactly where you're going, but I know you're going somewhere warm.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, you unzip your carry-on, and in there is a hat and warmers and long johns and gloves. I don't know exactly where you're going, but you're going somewhere cold. So we never pack for where we've been. We never pack for where we are. We pack for where we are going. And because of where we pack where we're going, that means you're prepared for that. So how do you prepare for the inevitabilities of life?
Yeah.
How do you prepare for death in the family? How do you prepare for loss in the family? How do you prepare for difficult times financially? How do you prepare for friends that might walk away from you? How do you prepare for the inevitabilities of life? And for that, for death, for example, I have to actually believe there's a God, that there's eternity, that I'm still kind of fuzzy if I'll know Brenda or not, because Jesus' answer was kind of fuzzy on that. But I hope I will know who she is and she will know who I am. I hope my grandson, I don't know if he's growing up or not. I have the theological questions. I have no concepts about. Yeah. But one thing I do know, there is eternity that I'll spend in the presence of God. And if Brenda is in the presence of God and I'm in the presence of God,
all will be right.
All will be okay.
Yeah.
So taking that long look at eternity is a preparation. So for that, I have to believe in a sovereign God. I've got to believe the Bible is true. I've got to believe that once I accepted Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior in my life, and I've lived the life that He's asked me to live, that eternity will be sweeter than anything I can ever imagine. So it's more of a heart preparation for the hardest parts of life.
Prepare now. I think this is what you're trying to get at. You can't plan for whatever pain's coming your way next week or a month from now, but you can prepare now.
Yeah.
Part of that is getting yourself in the Word of God to know who He says He is, grounding yourself in the sovereignty of God. Let's talk about relationships. I think that's another thing you're saying. You would put that in your bag. If you were preparing for pain, you'd have, the way you frame it, I think, is pain partners.
Pain partners.
Talk about pain partners.
So pain partners are people who don't give you easy advice, who don't give platitudes, who don't try to wrap it up with, let me pray with you. Nothing wrong with that. I'm all for prayer. I don't want anyone to misunderstand me. I'm a praying guy. I like to pray and I love to pray. But a lot of times when we feel that uneasiness and we don't know where to go, we think, let me tie a ribbon on this conversation.
That's our way of getting out of difficult conversations sometimes.
It's like, let me
There's a pastor hack for you. I don't know what to say. Let's pray.
So pain partners are people who can sit with you in your pain, who can churn with you.
They'll churn with you.
Who will not judge you, but are not afraid of bringing daylight to whatever you're
Speak
going
truth.
through. Yeah, who will speak truth.
Yeah.
And yet, I describe them as people who will hug me and slap me at the same time,
Yeah,
simultaneously,
yeah.
who will tell me what a jerk I am, and who will tell me they love me at the same time, who will not try to rescue me from the consequences of my foolishness, but who will be there on the other side of the spectrum. Pain partners. And in my life, I know hundreds of thousands of people all over the world, but I have 5 pain partners with who I can trust with anything. I can be embarrassed with them, but not ashamed with them.
That's good.
I can be embarrassed that I'm messed up, but I will not be ashamed to tell them that I'm messed up. No fear, no pressure. Lifelong lifers who will not discard me. So they need to be in your carry-on.
Yeah.
When you're going through those times in your life, who will not try to fix it for you, but walk it out with you, who will not try to change it, who will churn with you. So yeah, I think there are inevitabilities of life. Everybody listening to me has had loss, has had pain, is having loss, is having pain, will have loss, will have pain. So it's not like I'm surprised by this. We live in a fallen world, and thistles and thorns are around us, and we have to
Prepare for that.
prepare for that, you know. And I think you got so there are 2 aspects of preparation. There's a third one and a fourth one, but the 2 aspects of preparation are preparing spiritually and preparing relationally.
This is good. So what you're saying is you want to be prepared for the pain that's coming your way. Jesus said, in this world you will have trouble. You need to go, what's in my bag? Because it's not here yet, but I'm going to prepare what's in my bag spiritually and what's in my bag relationally. That's
right.
It's good.
So spiritual is vertical.
Yep.
Relational is horizontal. If I have them, I'll be okay. And under relational comes the pain partners. And the fourth one is money.
Talk about that.
Yeah, you got to have your finances in place. Because when you don't have I'm talking about personal finances, not church finances. Because a lot of pastors are
not
listening
business
to us
finance,
right now.
not organization. Yeah.
Church finances will come and go. During pain times, you need extra cash.
Well, let me just back up real quick because you said, this is interesting. Now, this is for our married people probably listening, but I think you can apply this principle to single people as well if you're listening. You've actually told me that the 2 questions now that you ask, there's only 2 questions you ask now to determine whether or not someone's doing all right, is healthy. What's the order you're asking?
Marriage.
How's your marriage? How's your money?
How's your marriage?
If I know the answer to those 2 questions, I can tell you whether or not you're healthy. If you're single, replace marriage with the most important relationship. What's the condition of the most important relationships in your life right now?
Your closest circles will define you. So if you're unmarried,
what's the state of those relationships?
State of those relationships. So how's your marriage? How's your money? In that order.
Why is that order important?
If my marriage is strong and my money is funny, I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Brenda and I remember when we were pastoring a church in Michigan. Rachel was born in 1980, and the church, it was a small rural country church with about 60, 65 people. They couldn't pay me enough. I was making $125 a week before taxes. So Brenda and I went to apply for food stamps. We got turned down because we made $22 too much. Literally. That's another story because our caseworker, get assigned a caseworker, ended up being a member of our church.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Talk about awkward. That was typically awkward for us. But all that to say is, but a marriage.
You were good. Your marriage was okay.
So money, hey, listen, tortillas and beans and onions and water, we're good.
Yeah.
But if your marriage is going through a tough time, you got to remind yourself that all the money in the world, listen, rich people divorce
Yeah. Yeah.
as often,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to take any names right now, but if
Yep.
you're reading any kind of a rag, you know that money does not keep your marriage together. But it's I had a sidetrack here. In seminary, I had a professor by the name of Larry Crabb.
Mm-hmm.
Larry Crabb has gone on to be with Jesus. And Larry Crabb said this, and at that time it made no sense to me, but the longer I'm married, the more sense it means to me. He says, he said, love does not sustain the marriage. Marriage sustains the love.
Mm.
Is the institution,
The commitment,
the commitment,
the covenant. Yeah.
the covenant. That's right. So all that to say that marriage, how's your money? If you'll take care of those two things, invest in both of them, take care of both of them, you'll be okay. You'll still have difficult days,
Yeah. The pain will come.
but pain will come.
Yeah.
But
But you're preparing for
that's
it
right.
by strengthening those two.
The most important institution that God created was the family
Mm.
in the Garden of Eden. And the second, he created the church in Acts chapter 2, only two. They're both relationally built. So all that to say, how's your marriage? How's your money? If those two are good, you'll be all right. Storms will still come, but that's building on the rock.
Yeah.
You'll be okay. If those are funny, you're in trouble. Because you can have a good marriage, bad money, not good money, you'll
Mhm.
be okay.
Mhm.
But if you have a bad marriage and great money, it just is a toxic mixture, going to take you down the wrong way because now you have money so you can
Options.
you can intoxicate your
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's funny because sometimes Christians get weird talking about money because I think it has been that conversation's probably been hijacked at times by Christians using it in the name of getting wealthy on their. I mean, I don't know. Everybody has their own probably version of like the late night TV preacher, or whatever. So sometimes Christians, and yet when you read the Bible, you cannot escape the scriptures talk a ton about how we handle our money. That is a significant issue. We're reading the church. LCBC took time to read through the Proverbs this summer, a chapter a day for the month of August. And you can't read the book of Proverbs without coming to the undeniable conclusion that God says it is a matter of spiritual maturity and wisdom in taking care of your money and how you deal with your money. And so it makes sense.
And Proverbs also defines how much is enough money.
Mm.
So people who don't know they're enough
Yeah.
are always going to be clawing and scratching and making that their importance. So Proverbs says this: don't make me poor that I'll go and steal.
Mm.
Don't make me so wealthy that I don't need you and deny you. Give me enough so I can be okay. And so I think everybody listening to us, I had this conversation with our family years ago, and it took a while to come to what is enough for us. And so we actually decided this is enough. Do I want to make more? Yes, of course I want to make more. But if I don't, I'm still okay because we had our enough in place. I'm not chasing this invisible, never-ending quest. It is enough.
Yeah.
And I think it is once you know that about your money. So we're not talking about wealth.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about riches. We're talking about enough so that you can live a life of trusting God. Like Proverbs says, don't make me poor.
Yeah.
Don't make me wealthy. Just enough.
Sam, I incredibly grateful for all that you've shared, and in particular, just even some of your personal. It's funny because sometimes you read what these authors, they put out there, and then you get to talk to them and people who are influencing and leading like you, and you realize it's not just ideas and it's not theory, it's real. And so you've had to navigate pain and figure out how to be resilient and what that looks like for you. So just thank you for sharing some of that. So let's just kind of come back to the big idea again, the idea that really grabbed hold of my heart when I first came across it, and then I want our listeners, I just wanted to grab hold of theirs as well, which is you cannot grow past the threshold of your pain at the end of the day. And so we want to expand our capacity to step into it because it's coming. And we may not be able to plan for it. You don't know what's coming tomorrow, but we can prepare for it now by looking at what we're putting in our bag, so to speak. I love that metaphor you gave us. The people we're surrounding, pain partners that we're surrounding ourselves with, digging into God's word to stand on that now for when it comes later, figuring out our most important relationships and our money and being prepared in that sense. So I want to give you the final word, though. We've got people listening who, some of them, they're preparing for it, don't know when it's coming. Some of them are in the middle of some pain right now, and maybe just give you the final word to just encourage. And what would you leave us with as we want to be people who can grow? We want to grow on the other side of pain.
I'm no authority on pain. All I know is I've had a lot of pain, and I know there's pain ahead as well. So I want our listeners, our watchers, to get one simple thought, and that is God's classroom for growth is pain.
Mm.
Every character in the Bible, including his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ, went through pain. Apostle Paul talks about pain a lot. Peter, Old Testament, be it Daniel, be it Joseph, we tell their stories as if they're some kind of point of departure. But you will not find a single character in the Bible who didn't have pain. Be it Jacob, be it Leah, be it Rachel, be it Esther, be it Mordecai. Then, I mean, you pick up anybody, they all went through pain. Jeremiah is hanging by the temple. All on it goes. So it's pain. Every character went through that. So we are not absolved from that. We live in a fallen world. However, when you look at them, also see that God was at work. And wish God had other tools to work maturity in us. But I think maturity is when I was a kid and I stubbed my finger, I would howl and wail. It will be the biggest thing. And my mother would kiss the ouchie and all those things. But now, if I act that way now at almost 72, you say he had not grown. But I've had the same finger that got stubbed over time. And now if I was to start throwing a temper tantrum like that, you say, he never grew up. He never matured. And I meet people, you meet people, especially the pastor. You meet people, you want to say, I know, I understand what you're going through, but that's a little, you just
overreact.
Stub your finger. So I would say to everybody that you are not where you used to be. Think about your life. You actually have made progress. You're not where you used to be. And you're not where you will be. But where you will be is being guided by God. And God's going to bring things in your life that will force you to grow. So you will grow only to the threshold of your pain. And my prayer is that in the middle of the pain, you'll not go AWOL. You'll not go stupid. You'll not go MIA, missing in action. But you will trust Him who has brought you thus far through your previous pains, who will see you through this as well.
I love it. Thank you, Sam. Your work has been such an inspiration to me. And again, I'm just so grateful to get to introduce you to our listeners. Thank you for everything.
Can I tell our listeners about my next book coming out?
I would love for you to do that, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
And the book is called Voices. You can get the book and there's no price on it. Pay whatever you want to. $0, $10, $20, $30, whatever you want to pay. Make up for those who get a $0 because this is international kind of thing. So let me give you a website to go to.
And we'll put this in the link as well that people can go to.
It's called voicesbookoffer.com. Voicesbookoffer.com. And you can read about how voices have brought you here. Voices will take you further. Voices will stagnate you. Voices will grow you. So yeah, voicesbookoffer.com. Thank you so much, Jason,
Absolutely.
for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you.